Hello, sixth and seventh graders. It is April 8th, 2021, and I would like to start by reading some of our read aloud. The last time that we read, Peak was in the hotel room. His dad had just left, and Peak was left to get acclimated to the climate so that he would be able to join his father on this climb. Of course, who doesn't know about this? His mom. But it'll be fine, right? That's what Dad says. And we don't call Dad Dad, we call him Josh. All right, this is called Gear of the Dead. The next morning, after a huge breakfast in the dining room, I came back upstairs and started sorting through the gear. All the stuff didn't make up for all the birthdays and Christmases Josh had neglected, but it came pretty darn close. It was all state-of-the-art equipment, most of which I'd only seen advertised in climbing magazines: camp stove coils of ropes, cams, titanium ice axe, crampons, thermal gloves, digital camera, O2 regulator and face mask, tent, sub-zero sleeping bag, sleeping pad, altimeter watch, carabiner, batteries, ascenders, pitons, harnesses, climbing helmet, headlamp, everything I needed to get through the death zone. Most of the clothes were too small, especially the boots. I suppose Josh couldn't have asked my mother for my sizes without tipping her off, and he couldn't have asked me because until I passed the physical, he wasn't sure I was going, which got me to wondering what he would have done if I had failed the physical, but only for a moment. The gear called to me, and nothing matters when you are up to your knees in brand new, expensive climbing equipment. It took me 2 hours to figure out how the altimeter watch worked, an hour to set up the tent. I faced it with all the opening toward the window so I could see the Himalayas. I snapped a couple of photos of my view for the digital camera. Then I got hungry and decided rather than going down to the dining room, I'd just cook up some food on my brand new camp stove. I know this sounds goofy, but I get a little out of control when it comes to gear. I opened the window so I didn't get carbon monoxide poisoning. So carbon monoxide is a poison. It's carbon and oxygen, CO, and it is a waste from burned gas. And that's why if you are ever in a garage, you don't want to have your car running if the garage door is closed because because carbon monoxide is getting out into the air. Now, carbon dioxide, one carbon and two oxides, is what we breathe out. And plants eat that up for us. So we don't have to worry about carbon dioxide, but carbon monoxide can cause lots of problems. As the freeze-dried beef stroganoff, this is kind of like if you remember when Nate Cola, I wanted to use his title, but I don't remember what it is. When Nate Cola was here and he had the meal, the MREs, the meals ready, whatever it is, and you were trying those are the kinds of things that they would eat on the mountain. As the freeze-dried beef stroganoff was simmering away, there was a knock on my door. I thought it was housekeeping again. They had come by earlier asking to clean the room, but I told them that I had everything I needed and to come back tomorrow. I slithered out of the tent, carefully stepped over the stove so I didn't tip it over and burn down the hotel, and cracked open the window, hoping they wouldn't smell the gas burning on the food cooking. It wasn't the housekeeper. It was a Nepalese boy about my age, but 2 inches shorter. He was smiling up at my head, which is all I had revealed through the crack. Below my head, I had nothing on but my boxers because I had been trying on gear all day, and it was getting hot in that room from the stove and the sun coming in through the window. Peak Wood? He asked. Actually, it's Peak Marcello, but yeah, that's me. My name is Sunjo. Zopa sent me over to bring you to him. Oh, sure. I glanced at the mess behind me. I didn't want to leave him standing in the hallway while I got ready, which was going to take a while. Appearing like a total idiot won over being rude. I let him in. Sunjo looked a bit shocked at the setup, but he didn't burst out laughing, which I might have done if I stumbled onto something equally as stupid looking as my indoor camp spot. My dad, Josh, got me some new gear and I was testing it out. So I would know. Forget it, I thought. I'm just making some lunch. Are you hungry? Sunjo said he was. As I got dressed, I watched him checking out the equipment, and I knew he was a climber. No one else would fondle gear as lovingly. He picked up various items like they were more valuable than gold, which they were when they were the only thing keeping you from falling off a rock face and into the dark bottomless crevice. I cleared a spot for us on the bed and served him a bowl of stroganoff and an energy bar for dessert. It turned out that Sunjo's father had been a Serpa. Unfortunately, he had died up on the K2 the previous year trying to rescue a group of climbers. Only one of the climbers survived. K2 was discovered in 1856 by a surveyor named T.J. Montgomery. The K stands for Karakoram. Karakoram. The 2 means it was the second peak Montgomery listed on his survey. At 28,250 feet, it's a bit shorter than Everest, but most climbers agree it's a lot harder to reach the summit. I told Sunjo how sorry I was to hear about his father, but he shrugged it off, saying he hardly knew his dad. He and his 2 younger sisters had spent most of their lives at a private boarding school in northern India. My sister and I only came back to Kathmandu on holiday, he said. My father was usually up in the mountain during those times. Hearing about his sisters caused a little ache in my belly for Paula and Patrice, but it went away as I watched Sunjo casually tie a length of spectra cord to a hex slug with a triple fisherman's knot. Where did you learn to climb? I asked. My grandfather instructed me, he answered. His English was better than mine. He had kind of a British Indian accent. Mine was kind of a Bronx Cody, Wyoming accent, which did not sound nearly as cool or refined as his. So you're on holiday? No, Sunjo answered. When my father died, we did not have the funds to keep all 3 of us in school. The tuition is very expensive. My sisters are still in school, and I am here to find work so they can stay there. Without a formal education, there is no future for girls in Kathmandu. I would like to go back to school myself, but it is unlikely I will be able to. It is more important that my sisters attend school than it is for me. Sunjo wasn't much older than I was, and I wondered what kind of job he could get that would pay the tuition. He looked at my altimeter watch, which he had been playing with throughout lunch. We should leave soon. Zopa is waiting for us at the Indrayani temple. I turned off the stove and put the dishes in the bathroom sink. Did you know there's a dining room here in the hotel? Sunjo asked. I have not dined there myself, but I heard it is quite excellent. Yeah, I ate there this morning. It's great. The reason I cooked, well, you know, the new gear. Sunjo smiled. He knew exactly what I was talking about. Our transportation to the temple was the saddest motorcycle I had ever seen. There was more silver duct tape on it than chrome. It took him 6 vicious kicks to get it started, and when it finally caught, the motorcycle belched out a column of gray smoke so thick I thought the bike had burst into flames along with my new friend. But the smoke cleared, revealing a coughing Sunjo with tears running down his face and a mostly intact motorcycle, except for the bolt line and a pool of oil under the engine. It is much better when we are moving forward, he gasped. In this way, the smoke cannot catch us. I thought about running up to the room and grabbing my climbing helmet, but I was afraid Sunjo might die of asphyxiation before I got back out. So I climbed on behind him and we lurched into traffic. Sunjo yelled something that sounded like only 2 rupees, last go. But I think he meant that the motorcycle only had 2 foot gears, fast and slow. He was right about our exhaust being behind us. The problem was that we were now speeding through everyone else's exhaust. For the next 20 minutes, I squeezed shut my burning eyes and buried my face in his back, thereby missing most of Kathmandu. We have arrived, Sunjo announced. I unclenched my sweaty hands and opened my eyes. You must remove your shoes before entering the temple. I took them off and put them next to about 50 other pairs of shoes and sandals. If you don't mind my asking, Sunjo said, what happened to your face? It got frozen to a building. Sunjo laughed. No, really. Climbing accident, I said. That's what I thought. I followed him into the Indrayani temple, which was like walking into another world, one where people whispered rather than shouted. There were no wandering cows. We had narrowly missed 3 of them on the way over. No horns honking, no screeching tires. The smell of flowers and incense saturated the air. Worshippers were kneeling in front of the shrines, spinning prayer wheels, lighting butter lamps, mystery, possibilities. This was the Kathmandu I had expected. Sunjo led me to the teak bench on the shades of a banyan tree. We sat for a while watching the orange-robed monks talking quietly to visitors and offering their blessings. Which one is Zopa? I whispered. None of these. Shouldn't we let him know we're here? Sunjo shook his head. He'll be along when he's ready. Waiting again, but I didn't mind. I spent the time trying to figure out how to gracefully bow out of a return trip to the hotel on the death motorcycle. Here he comes, Sunjo said. I expected Zopa to be a frail old holy man, and the monk striding towards us was old, but he was anything but frail. His arm and calf muscles, what I could see of them beneath the hem of his orange robe, were well defined and powerful. You'd expect a Buddhist monk to have a spiritual presence, but whatever spirituality Zopa had was overwhelmed by his physical presence. When he reached us, he put his palms together and bowed. I followed Sunjo's lead by getting to my feet and returning the bow. Zopa looked me over, frowning at the scabs on my face and ear. Climbing accident, Sunjo explained. Zopa pointed at my bandaged fingers. Split nails, I explained nervously. They're almost healed. You look like your father, Zopa said. Actually, I looked more like my mother, but I wasn't about to disagree with him. How did you get here? Motorcycle, Sunjo said. Zopa shook his head in disgust. When you go back, you take a taxi. He reached into a fold of his robe and came out with a roll of rupees as big as his fist. I didn't think Buddhist monks were even supposed to look at money. He peeled off half an inch of bills and handed them to Sunjo. What about my motorcycle? Sunjo asked. If you are lucky, Zopa said, someone will steal it. Wait for me at the hotel. The monk turned and walked away. I was relieved about the taxi, but that didn't explain why we had come all the way down to the Indrayani temple. When I asked Sunjo about it, he just shrugged and said that Zopa had his own way of doing things. That seemed like a wasted trip to me as well. I am as confused as Peak. Anyway, on to our lesson. Today, we are going to focus on reading the story, The Bracelet, and focusing on the parts of a story. So the story and the first assignment are attached in one assignment in Google Classroom under ELA Reading. And when you open it, you will find of course I can't find it now. It was there. Okay, anyway, when you open it, you are going to find a worksheet that looks like this. So you'll have the worksheet, and also attached to that, you're going to have the PDF file that has the short story to it. And if you saw it on Tuesday, I had actually already put it up thinking that we were going to do it on Tuesday, but then we didn't because Tuesday changed. So it is there now, and that is what you're going to read. After you are done reading, you're going to go here and you're going to fill in the parts of a story. So let's look at this. We have the story title and the author. You're going to fill those out. And obviously it is right there up at the top. I just want to make sure you're paying attention. The next is setting. So can we remember what setting is? So setting is the time and the place that the story takes place in. So you want to have both of those aspects in your answer, the time period as well as the place or places that the story takes place. For plot, another word for plot is action. So the plot is everything that happens after we meet the family. What is it that's happening? What's going on? All of that good stuff. The complication, another word for complication would be problem. So a problem in the story. What is the problem we encounter in the story? And you're going to fill that in. And then you are going to look at the bottom two, and it says protagonist and antagonist. So the protagonist is the main character that faces a problem. The antagonist is the character or group that causes the problem in the story. All right, so you're going to be looking for those things. I don't want you to type what I just typed in there. I want you to type the actual things of the story. But just in case you forget what those things are, you can reference back to this video and you can see what it is that you're looking for. Another word for a complication is a problem. And the setting is the time and place. All right, so you can come back here and you can reference this part of the video if you forget what any of these things are. But remember, please, that you are filling in your own answers. According to the story, The Bracelet by Yoshiko Ukida. Okay. All right, hopefully you don't have any questions. Your reading of the story can count as part of your time reading today. So if it takes you 15 minutes to read the story, then that's your 15 minutes of class time reading, and then you just need your 20 minutes of homework reading. If it takes you 20 minutes to read the story, then you have your 20 minutes of reading, and then you just need your 15 minutes for a class. Or, you can break it up any way you want to there. It should not take you the full 35 minutes, I don't think, to read the story. But if it does, it does. So, all right, I will see you at 1 o'clock. Bye.